My name is Pete Hines from Bethesda Softworks. I'm the Vice President of PR and Marketing and internal champion for the Elder Scrolls Legends.
And what goals do you guys have heading into a card game in the Elder Scroll universe?
I think some of the things that we wanted to do were, first of all, make sure it was a really good card game, a good strategy card game that was doing some cool and unique things, and then also to make sure it was true to the Elder Scrolls and the way that it's implemented, that it didn't just feel like a sort of a label thrown on top of it. And so I think we've managed to find a good balance of how we bring the world of the Elder Scrolls into a strategy card game, and then also coming up with features and ideas that make it unique in the space.
What do you think the fantasy universe of the franchise kind of lends to this genre?
It does a number of things. If you play the game, you'll notice that the cards are broken up into different attributes, which are from the previous Elder Scrolls game, the strength and intelligence and agility. And then all of the 10 races from the Elder Scrolls are brought into the game sort of thematically set around the different things they're known for in the Elder Scrolls. So orcs are a very tribal race, so orcs care about other orcs. So when you play orc cards, they either care about having other orcs on the battlefield or pumping up other orcs. Red guards care about weapons, so items are a big thing for red guards. And the way that those races are integrated into the different attributes and allow you to build very varied decks that are doing different things within each of the colors was really important to us. And then beyond that, doing things like bringing items like the Wabbajack or the Adoring Fan, or just different things that folks in the Elder Scrolls will recognize that also give the game its own kind of flavor and tone. I think are kind of the way that we bring the Elder Scrolls into a card game that is a good fit, that makes it a better game.
Kind of following on that, how do you guys feel you're going to differentiate yourselves from the other card games that are out there? You know, Magic and Hearthstone, even Pokemon has a trading card game. And how do you guys feel that you guys can push the genre forward?
So some of the things that make Legends unique, we have a 2-lane battlefield. So when you play cards, we're a direct attack game. So unlike a game like Magic, where the defending player gets to decide whether they want to block, the attacking player gets to decide whether they're attacking their opponent's creatures or their opponent. But we have 2 lanes, so when you play a creature, you're playing it into one lane or the other, which adds a really interesting dynamic of, do you want to play your creatures directly across from stuff that your opponent is doing to sort of interrupt their game plan or stop them? Are you going to play around them and play to the opposite lane? Are you going to spread your threats across 2 lanes or try and dominate one? There's sort of pros and cons to each of those. We also have a mechanic where as you lose health, every 5 health, you break what we call runes, and every time you break a rune, you draw a card. So your opponent is attacking you, they're on the offensive, and you're sort of trying to catch up. As they're attacking you, you're drawing extra cards, which are going to give you more options and resources to try and get back into the game. We also have this mechanic called Prophecy that says when you draw a card, because a rune's been broken, if it has the word Prophecy on it, you get to play it for free. So on your opponent's turn, as they're attacking you and lowering your health, you can have the opportunity to play a card that can immediately break up their plan. You might be able to kill a creature or drop down a guard that has to be attacked first before their creatures can attack you. So you have this ability to sort of get back into the match even while you're taking damage. It also adds a lot of complexity in terms of when you're attacking. A lot of games, if it's a direct attack game, you just grab all your guys and throw them at your opponent's face, and there's no rhyme or reason to it necessarily. But in our game, you really have to think about when you're going to be breaking your opponent's runes and they're going to be drawing cards, what cards they have the potential to draw, and whether you want to attack with maybe a small guy first in case they drop down a guard that you can attack with your big guy, or whether you want to attack with your big guys first because if they draw something that's going to kill a creature, you want to have gotten your big chunks of damage in. There's lots of times that not attacking is actually the right choice, that you don't want to give your opponent another additional card or 2 to get back into the game, and you might hold off on attacking whatsoever, which is a little counterintuitive in a lot of other games. And then it's just the card file itself. We have over 400 cards, and the way they break up into attributes and the diversity you get and the kinds of decks that you see and can build, I think really makes the game sort of find its own space in the strategy card genre.
Wow, it almost sounds like chess in a sense, where sometimes the best move is to be defensive on offense.
Yeah, it does a couple of things. I mean, it makes you feel like when you're getting beaten up, and I've seen this so many times playing the game. I mean, I've played the game hundreds, probably thousands of hours now, that at no point in a game do you necessarily feel like you are completely out of it. That even if, like, every creature I played, my opponent has had to answer for and killed, and they're just attacking me, and they're still at 30, and I'm down to 15 or 12 health. I'm like, well, but the next rune they break, they're going to keep attacking me. If I draw this or I draw this, like, I'm right back in the game. Or I play, they're attacking me and taking all my health down really low, but they've deployed all their threats into a single lane, and I have a card that says, I'm going to do something awful to creatures in one lane, and suddenly I've completely wiped their board and managed to put a creature down, and now, I've stabilized a little bit. So it's definitely a mechanic and an idea of that the roles can switch back and forth very quickly, and you might feel really comfortable about, like, all right, I'm in the driver's seat here and I've got my opponent down, but man, it's amazing. You break a rune and they play a card, and all of a sudden, like, you feel like you've immediately switched to the defensive role, even if you've got a lot more health because of what your opponent has managed to do.
This franchise has a rabid fan base that's very knowledgeable about all the games. How will that knowledge help players in this card game, or are you trying to make it accessible to people that haven't played Elder Scrolls? How do you balance those two things?
Sure. So the idea is that we want to use the Elder Scrolls in all the ways possible to make it a really interesting game, and to have it have a lot of sort of rhyme and reason why things are the way they are, whether you're a fan of the Elder Scrolls or not, right? It gives it sort of that grounded base of, I understand why this race works the way it does. I understand why this race cares about items or spells or whatever it is. If you're a fan of the Elder Scrolls, one of the things that you're going to get is a much greater appreciation for why those things are the way they are. So, for example, if you played Oblivion and you fought in the arena and you got the Adoring Fan for becoming the arena champion, you know what that character is, right? And you know how it worked when you were playing this role-playing game. You had this annoying little guy that just kept chattering and wouldn't get out of your way, and there's an Adoring Fan card in the Elder Scrolls Legends, and the only way that you can get it is by winning the arena. And once you get it, the card, it's a 0/1, so it doesn't actually do anything. It can't actually kill anything. It's a guard, so it's always in your way. Your creatures will have to attack it and kill it before you can attack other creatures or your opponent. It can't be silenced. Silence is one of our mechanics that says turn off all of that card's abilities. So you can't actually shut this thing up or get it out of the way. And when you kill it, it doesn't go to the graveyard. It sort of goes to this outside of the play space, and then at a sort of a random number of turns later, it just shows up back on the battlefield again. So from a flavor standpoint, if you played the Elder Scrolls and you see this card, it's not just like it's this cool kind of quirky, interesting card that maybe in certain decks has an interesting role, but from a flavor standpoint, if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, it's like the perfect implementation of something that you sort of remember as a cool, funny moment from a previous Elder Scroll game. And you'll see a lot of that, whether it's, a card like Lucian LeChance, who's, a Dark Brotherhood character you might remember from a previous game, or Wabbajack, which is Shea Gorath's crazy artifact weapon that he uses that has a really interesting Shea Gorath effect when you play it in the game. So it's stuff like that that sort of makes a better connection with the game maybe, and what those cards are doing, that when you see a card like Wabbajack, if you've played the Elder Scrolls, you immediately think like, oh, that's funny, that's a Shea Gorath thing, and it does exactly what you would think it would do when implemented in a card game.
Very cool. And you guys are in beta, and I'm not sure how long it's been going on for, but how are you guys going to be using the feedback from players between now and the final release of the game?
So we've been in closed beta since April, and the last few months have been, letting a slow trickle of folks into the game and just running them through the game and getting feedback and testing card balance and making sure that, we're sort of solving problems and getting annoyances out of the way, and that the game is fun and balanced. Now that we're in open beta, what we're looking for is lots more folks to come in and play the game and try it, and to give us that feedback, and for us to be able to look at even more data that sort of tells us that the game is fun and balanced, and there's a wide variety of decks in both battle mode and arena mode. And we have a ton of ideas for enhancements and improvements of the game, but we want to hear that stuff from fans as well as they get to play and experience the game. So from open beta into what I guess will be launch, the game is just going to continue to evolve and grow. But even after we launch, there's still all kinds of stuff that we plan to do, features we want to add. So it's never really going to ultimately be done. It's going to constantly grow and evolve as we go forward, and certainly player feedback is going to be a huge part of that.
No buzzword that we hear a lot at QuakeCon is eSports, and with the success of Hearthstone in eSports, and even Magic before that, how much did that influence you guys during the development of it, and how much are you guys going to put effort-wise towards the marketing of it as an esport?
I don't know how much effort we're going to put into marketing it as an esport. Ultimately, what we're making is a really cool, fun strategy card game, or at least we think it is. And ultimately, anything that wants to be part of esport, if it's not that first, it's never getting anywhere, right? It's got to be a really fun, engaging game so that people actually want to play it, and that people actually want to watch other people play it. We certainly have ideas around tournaments and competitions and stuff that we plan to do going forward, both in the game and outside the game. But ultimately right now, almost our entire focus is on making the game good and making it better, and looking at getting it out on all these other platforms and making it available to even more people on iPad or Android or Mac or whatever it is. So we have lots of ideas and plans, but if it's not a good game and it's not fun to play and fun to watch, then the wanting it to be an esport is it's a pipe dream.
Yeah, I think a lot of devs try to tell us that their game's going to be an esport, and if you look at the success of a game like Rocket League, they weren't trying to make an esport. They just made a great game, and I think it sounds like you're doing the same sort of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Rocket League is a perfect example, right? It's an awesome game to play. It was, if you were here last year at QuakeCon and walked through the BYOC, Rocket League was everywhere. Nobody here, even though this is an incredibly competitive event, and heck, this is one of the earliest implementations of esports, and we've been having tournaments here for decades. But what made everybody here want to play Rocket League is it's an awesome game, and it's really fun and competitive to play, and then it turns out it's also fun to watch other people play, and it's kind of taken off from there. Our focus on Legends is just that. It's on the game itself, and everything else, if done well, will roll out of that. Yeah, the big thing for Legends here was just that we were in open beta. We've been, since we dropped the NDA during closed beta, we were sort of getting flooded with people like, I signed up for beta, give me a key, I want to get in. And we just felt like where we are, we were ready to let anybody in who wanted to try it out for themselves to help us test it, to give us feedback on, the balance of the game, the features, what they like, what they don't like, what they want to see more of, what they want to see less of. So for us here, it was announcing that we've gone into open beta. Obviously, we have a lot more plans going forward. We've got all those platforms that I mentioned that we're still working on getting out the door, and then a lot more to come, whether it's new sets down the road, or new features or modes or whatever those things are. We'll let folks know what's coming up down the road.
And do you have a launch date yet? Is it later this year or early next year? Or?
We haven't given any dates for any of the other platforms. The first big hurdle for us was getting to open beta, and we're going to continue to sort of work on the PC version. I think the next thing you probably see from us will be tablet versions, because it's closest to what we're doing on the PC and the Mac version, and then phones after that. Obviously, getting something to run on a screen this big is a lot different than one on a screen this big, UI and UX wise, but we haven't given any dates for that. We're working on it. We'll let folks know as soon as we got more info.
Hopefully it's ready to go for next year QuakeCon, so we can have a tournament here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you'll probably see us doing tournaments and competitions even sooner from that. There's already been a number of fan-sponsored tournaments where the folks that have been playing closed beta are getting together and doing tournaments and competitions. So I think much before QuakeCon, you'll see us doing some tournaments and events for folks. Even the ones playing it on PC are kind of chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I think it's kind of this is kind of a fan-driven event, and it's really cool to see how there's like this synergy between the dev studio, the distribution outlets, and then the fans. Kind of a collaborative effort to really make these games and these events like a huge thing. Like, I walked through the BYOC and I was just blown away seeing 3,000 computers and people playing all sorts of Bethesda games.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Both of my kids are here this year with their friends, and so I'll when I'm not doing interviews, I'll walk in there and sort of check in on them. And inevitably, when I'm walking through, I'll see people playing Legends and just sort of stop and stand over their shoulders and watch them play, and they'll turn around and do a double take like, oh, hey, can I ask you about this, and what's this work, or what should I do here? I'm like, oh, we'll do this and that, and you want to think about this. And so it's been a lot of fun, again, to your point, especially with the free-to-play game. I think more so than any other kind of game. Obviously, we're big believers in taking fan feedback and trying to be interactive with our fans and hear their sort of comments and thoughts. But with a free-to-play game like this, where it's never really done in development. It's this constantly growing, evolving thing. It's even more important that the fans are a part of that and feel like they're heard and are participating in that process.